Hey everybody, and welcome to my weekly chat on Periscope with Seopa. My name is Bobby Umar, and today we're going to talk about, do values differ between generations? And I think that that's a question a lot of people want to know. They not only want to know whether values differ, but they also want to know how they differ. And so let's talk about that. And again, my name is Bobby Umar. I'm a four-time TEDx speaker, one of Inc. Magazine's top 100 leadership speakers. I'm here every week at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking for Seopa.com. Yeah, thanks for the hearts. Love that. If you like what you're hearing, by all means, share the hearts. Share this on Twitter. Share this on Facebook. Let's bring people to this conversation, shall we? So let's get to and I just want to have a conversation with you guys because it's more about just talking to you guys and hearing what you think about this. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Let me know where you're from. You can kind of type below and let me know. You can also watch all the videos that we've been doing for the last year at seopa.com/stream. You can see all the different topics we've covered. If you have topics you want to talk about, just send them via Q for Bobby U. Tweet me at Rehan Bobby, and I will take them on as topics to address. So let's get to the thing. Do values differ between generations? Well, the short answer is yes, they do. Now, the truth is, these are generational ones, but they're also guidelines. They're not general rules, but they're called guidelines. So, most boomers are one way, most millennials are a certain way. But again, there's exceptions to the rule, which is fine. But let's talk about some of the generational ideas. And for the sake of this conversation, again, let me know where you fit in the generation. I'm going to focus on boomers and Gen X and millennials. And so I personally am a Gen X, although many of my friends are millennials and many of my friends are Gen X. But that's kind of where I'm focused on. And then, of course, I have lots of boomer colleagues as well. And, let's start with the main difference between the three. Well, boomers essentially were people that were born right after the war between 1946 and 1964. There was a lot of them. There was a whole pile of them. And that because people were having babies like crazy after the war was over. And so they grew up, post-war. They ended up being radicals in the 70s and also yuppies in the 80s. And they were taught the American dream, and that's what it's all about. And they were big on living to work and trying to go for that dream. Then you have Generation X. Generation X are people generally between the years of 1965 and 1980. And these are people who pretty much had to take care of themselves, growing up or in their early adult life. They watched politicians lie. They watched their parents get laid off. It was a hard time for them. They're actually the first generation not to do as well financially as their parents did. Again, it's a general rule, but that's kind of it gives you insights into who these people are. They were also pretty rebellious, as I was. I know what that was like. So, and then you have millennials. Now, millennials, depending on who you talk to, they're typically thought of being born between 1977 and 1994 or 1981 and 2000. But from what I've seen, 1979, 1980, all the way to 1995, 1996 is the general area for which millennials are thought to be born. These are people who are digital natives. They grew up with informational technology, the internet. They watch people turn things around. They were actually more sheltered by their parents and more protected. They're kids who grew up scheduled lessons with piano, scheduled homework time, scheduled this and that. Now, how do the values differ? Well, there's a few key differences. I mean, if you look at the boomers, for example, I mean, they're staunch believers, and thanks for the hearts, appreciate that. They're staunch believers in equal rights. Not saying that Gen X and millennials aren't. It's just that was a big part of their evolvement and their growing up. So most boomers are really big on equal rights, anti-government, anti-war, and they're very loyal to their kids. That's a big thing for them. Whereas for, and then actually a few more things for boomers, they're really into personal growth. So when you look at people who are taking on leadership development programs, a lot of them are into personal growth. Not saying, again, the others aren't, but it's big for them. They're very team-oriented, working for the team, loyalty to the team, loyalty to the organization, and they live to work. Many of them were workaholics. Now, some of them in their older age have decided to not be that way, but that's kind of how they are. Now, if you look at Gen X, it's a little bit different. I mean, they were big believers in balance, so balance between work and life. Work-life balance was a huge thing for them. Now, contrary to the millennials like balance too, but they want to balance everything. They balance work, life, friends, community involvement, giving back. They balance everything in their lives, and that's their spirituality. They balance everything, whereas the balance for Gen X is a balance between work-life balance. Gen X tend to be very independent. They're also very cynical and they question everything. They're very skeptical based on, the politicians that they saw and based on the parents getting laid off and not trusting corporations, which I kind of am too. So I totally get that. They prefer to be informal versus formal, which is something more the boomers and the older ones, the traditionalists were into. Gen X people are very pragmatic about things, and that's a big part of what they are. And then going to millennials, millennials are very focused on achievement. So people achieving for themselves, but also admiring people who are achievers. They're avid consumers. They're very, very tolerant in this society. They're tolerant of all different diversities and different types of lifestyles. They tend to be tech savvy. They're very sociable, or they at least understand the importance of sociability. They tend to be more spiritual. They're very confident, very optimistic. And like I said, they balance everything. And a few things I want to mention that are similar between Gen X and millennials. There's actually not as many similarities between Gen X and boomers, mostly because Gen X typically are distrusting of baby boomer values. Okay. But between between Gen X and millennials, some of the common things that are there is Gen X likes to have fun, millennials like to have lots of fun. And Gen X works to live, and similarly, the millennials work to live. And so there are common values in between the two of them. Now, what's really important when it comes to following your passion or working with people and understanding why this is important to understand is because if you understand how these people are, you'll have a much better chance of being able to connect with them on a deeper level to provide systems within your passion project or your business or your career to make sure that these people feel included, they feel wanted, they feel special. There's there's tons of great material out there on millennials and Gen X and boomers. Because right now, boomers are the senior managers in the organization, the Gen X are middle managers or senior managers, and millennials are upcoming. And then there's this big gap between how they operate. And being able to understand, the millennials are a big group. The Gen X are actually a small group. And their big issue is that they're going to be squashed between boomers and millennials. That's one of their biggest fears, and that's something they're skeptical about. Millennials, are very high achievers. They want to surpass Gen X and take over what the boomers were doing. So it's becoming definitely an issue in the workplace as well as within the career. So, but what's important to understand about values is that this is just kind of how we've grown. The truth is, millennials, a lot of what Gen X, like myself, when I was a millennial age at 25, 30, I was similar to what millennials are now, even though I'm older. So, some of these things I think are based on age and time of life and, what's going on. However, there are societal differences. Like, yes, because of digital technology and the internet, life is different now. So, obviously boomers and myself, Gen X people can't recognize what it's like to grow up with the internet from day one. So, I learned about the internet when I was 19. I learned about social media when I was in my 30s, mid 30s. So, it was different for me in terms of, what I grew up with. Now, it's important, and again, going back to why it's important to know about these differences again, it's how you address, it's how you engage. It's all about connection. Understanding and investing in people is such an important part of following your passion. It's an important part of getting people on board. It's an important part of everyday life, whether it's business or personal. And thanks for the hearts, appreciate that. So connection. This is really about when you understand someone's values and you can actually connect with them on their values, you create a much deeper emotional connection. People are more willing to connect on values than they do on behaviors and interests. So if you understand that, you'll do a much better job of being able to connect with these people when it comes to your everyday dealing with them. And also, the other big message I have here is that even though there are, when I say, boomers like equal rights, well, so do Gen X and millennials. And when I say Gen X likes balance, well, so do boomers and millennials. But so the big point is that even though there are differences, and it's important to understand that, there is so much more we all do relate on. And if you understand, we all relate on family and the human experience and wanting the best for ourselves and the best for others and social justice and things like that. There are things that we do relate on a much more fundamental level. And if you want to start a business or a passion project that connects with all of them or two groups, that's important to know because then you connect with all of them. For me, for my work, I tend to focus on Gen X and millennials. So my work focuses on trying to connect with those people. They feel lost, they feel stuck in their jobs or careers, and I try to help them out. So that's what I do. So anyways, I hope you found this discussion. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts. Either post them below or on the replay, post them, or share in the comments on the website. I'll be here every week. Oh, next week I'm on vacation. I'm at a cottage, so sorry. I'll be back the following week on September 8th to do my weekly Periscope for Seopa.com, 11:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate your time. Hope you guys are having an amazing week. And thanks for the heart. Thanks for the loves. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.